Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and today what I'm going to look at is Uranus and through the houses and a bit of the retrograde, and then also the trauma, because Uranus is to do with our long-term memory, and it's also every planet has the trauma aspect of it and then the higher octave of it, but we've also got the trauma to each planet, and I'm going to look at Uranus. So what I'm going to do is go to the first slide, and I'd like to just read this a little bit here by Dane. I think it's Rudyard. I always pronounce it slightly off, I think. But he says the essential purpose of astrology is not so much to tell us what we will meet on our road as it is to suggest how to meet it and the basic reason for the meeting, which quality in us, which type of strength is needed to go through any specific phase of our total unfoldment as an individual person. So astrology, as we know, is very useful to pinpoint, maybe early imprints and also to evolve our trauma. And from the work that I've been doing, I'm seeing that we've all gone through trauma. There's nobody that's got off lightly. So when we begin to, as we begin to evolve and we become more conscious, we do need to look at this stuff to make the world a better place overall. Here I'd like to share something wonderful that part of evolutionary astrology, but also shared with me through Simon Forster, which I found very helpful in my own education through learning, and that transforming is to do with Uranus, transcending is to do with Neptune, and to transmute is Pluto. And so Uranus transform, the meeting of the threshold, is the Uranus phase of life. This is the realization that the framework you have is limiting. So that's how we can understand Uranus, and breaking free of limitations as well as the past life traumas and this life as well, early imprints. Neptune is where we transcend. It's the disillusionment, the need to awaken that the illusion of separation you have told yourself or held in place dissolves. So wherever Neptune is in our chart, it is the dissolver. To transmute is Pluto, and the total collapse and death of the attachment emotionally. This leads to a new choice and passing of an old way, which is a brilliant way to look at it as well. And now the integration comes. Pluto sows the seeds for a new psychological attachment that then leads to a healing, wholeness and unity, acceptance and meaning. And Uranus forms layers of purpose and illumination, and then the ego, which is Saturn and the moon, forms a new self-image based on the above. So that I love that understanding myself. Then Uranus went retrograde at 15 degrees of Taurus on August the 15th, 2020, and Uranus goes direct at 6 degrees Taurus on January the 14th, 2021. So we're in October, November, December, January. We've still got 3 months, just under 3 months, 11 weeks of this left. It goes retrograde for an average of 5 months, and Uranus moves into Gemini in 2025. So it's good to note that where it's heading. This, I'd like to point out that Uranus in Taurus, because it is currently in Taurus, before I go into the houses, it's quite important that we understand this, because it's creating the wave that we need for our own evolution right now. It's really important. COVID to me has been a really huge growth for my own psychology, and I'm seeing what's going on out in this world, and I think it's a brilliant time for our evolutionary growth. Even though there's a lot of hardship, this is where we really grasp our futures now, and also by looking at our trauma. If we don't do the inner work and we don't look at our early imprints and our own traumas, then we'll just keep projecting out there onto others, which is the outer critic, and that spirals because of the inner critic that tells us, the superego that tells us the things that our parents told us where it wasn't healthy, telling us that there's something wrong with us, that we're not good enough. When we're holding in that space in us and we feel that pain, that wound, and we don't work on it, then it will become the outer critic, and we will make everybody else wrong. So the trauma work in astrology is essential for us. Number one here, I'd like to read Uranus is in Taurus. We, the collective, are being forced to change our value systems, the values that have defined our identity and reality up until now. Number two, Taurus is about money and values, and the ruler is Venus. And Taurus is about our inner needs, and Uranus wants to break free of limitations. And Uranus also, number three, equates to trauma and long-term memory, all that we have held as being of value, our jobs, the money we earn, our luxuries, and the meaning now is being transformed through it being in Taurus. Many of us, number four, many of us over the last months have changed our values and what we value and what we hold of value. The fancy car, the desired handbag, etc., and the loss of meaning. I have a little story there. I was going to LA and I bought a handbag to take with me in March, but the flights were stopped, and this £300 handbag has just sat on a door handle since I bought it in February. So that amazed me. I thought, well, I really didn't need that bag. I've not used it at all. Number five, in material loss, we can experience newfound freedom as needs are reevaluated. And number six, we are learning to relate to ourselves in a new way. Number seven, it is safe to let go of what no longer is of value. And we have some time to figure out in our lives right now. So COVID, the lockdowns, they're actually helping us figure this out. And it's not a walk in the park. It's not great for everybody. It depends on our geographics and our financial situation, and also relationship situations we're in as well. You know, there's many factors here to look at. Number eight, we've got, look where Uranus is in your chart, the transit and the rulers, so you can see what area of life is being given the freedom card. And we're not to resist this, we don't want to resist this change that's taking place. Number nine, we have free will and we are destined to heal our trauma individually and collectively. And this is why we've been given consciousness. It's developed from the beginning of mankind, with information and technology. And we have also number nine. I've got number nine twice, forgive me, it's Mercury retrograde. Well, I'm having two number nines. Uranus entered Taurus last time in 1935, and we had monetary restructure and the welfare of others. So if we take the clock back on a chart and see the chart of 1935 and the war that was going on and how social care changed and monetary funds. Number 10 or 11, I would say, we are here to evolve, and astrology allows us to understand self and the collective at a very deep level. To me, when I look back at this and the work of Carl Gustav Jung, and he was looking at charts as well, fascinating that he took that work on. I think he was about, in 1911, he began to look at astrology and consciousness, and he used astrology in his own work with his clients to help them evolve and heal. Also, maybe he wouldn't have used that terminology though. This is my chart, and what we have is that my Uranus natal is 9th house on my MC, 15 degrees with Pluto up there, and it's currently going through my 6th house. And I've left through that, it shook up my life. I've left a business that I had for 30 years behind, and I've now, working online, and I don't know when I will work or when I won't work. It's like, it's whatever comes. So it's working well for me because I've done, been working on my own evolutionary, my own consciousness, reading many, many books and information. So for me, it's been, I'm not finding it really shocking to me. It's like, yes, I can deal with this, but I'm sure it will have a few shocks for me in store as it moves through in aspects. So what we want to do with our own chart is then look at the aspects. This I got from Solar Fire, and I'm just giving you a demonstration of my own chart so that it can give you some ideas of looking at your own chart if you want to do that. I've got here, I'm not going to read them all, but I've got Uranus in my 6th house, and it's going to be semi-square to Chiron in my 4th house, and in April, and then it's going to also Uranus, it's going to then hit my Saturn in June 2021. So that gives me an idea, and something that I also understand that if we look at a chart, it really is very much what we're feeling. I don't believe the chart, planets aren't doing anything to us. They're like a guide. It's wisdom and also psychology. So we begin to understand ourselves and we keep evolving. And there is hardship in life, you know, but we don't need to be scared of the planets. When I first started astrology, I was terrified of Saturn. But, you know, as I get to know, I love Saturn now. I have great respect for Saturn in my chart, understanding it. And the next slide. So it's good to know if you're watching this and you haven't, you know, gone deeply into astrology, that we have the Uranus opposition happens between age 42 to 44. And that's a wonderful time for people to really shake off their shackles, so to speak, and a lot of insights. And these, you know, it can be shocking that we're one way and then we just think, you know, it's another way, life is another way, it's not what we thought it was. But these little shocks, you know, send us off in beautiful new directions, for better and worse sometimes, but we keep moving. Uranus has an 84-year orb around the chart. It's a wake-up call, generally. Uranus is about uniqueness and liberation. It shocks the unexpected in expression. We have an electrical energy current running through our own bodies, as you know, in our brains, and Uranus is to do with the electrical system also. It rules Aquarius, and the 11th house also hopes and dreams. We basically, I think at this time, as it moves through Taurus, it would be to ground our bodies, so to take on things like, you know, there's a guy called Wim Hof, you can check out online, YouTube, breathing exercises and grounding ourselves, and, you know, really looking at, you know, with water as well, you know, having hot baths and salt baths, and really beginning to ground the body at this time through this period is very useful and helpful for our health, to keep our cortisol levels low, so that we keep the organs, you know, in the cycle of, you know, their youth, so to speak. You know, we can heal our organs by changing our psyche and not being in stress all the time. We can heal the body. Definitely, I've seen that in myself with ailments that I've had. So we work on the energy, and we giving it expression, exhilaration, stimulation and excitement, and unexpected and new possibilities at this time. If the energy is not given expression, or it is being suppressed in any way, we can also experience this energy as coming from outside ourselves in the form of shocks and others. So, you know, it would be good if you can look at your own, where it is in your chart, and hopefully this activates you to do that as well. Uranus in Taurus, where we are forced to change value systems, which I hope I'm not repeating myself, but this is good to get this through. Value systems, values that have been held, and identity and overall reality for a long time. There can be loss. Everything that we have held dear and cherished can become lost. This can include material loss, as we're seeing now as it moves through. Many businesses, you know, all over the world. It's not just you know, the UK, the USA, everywhere is having this go on. It's to realign with new values, adjust, modify the existing ones, which will allow us to relate to ourselves and the collective in a new way. We can have past vague memories of physical or emotional destitution. Uranus equals individuation, liberation, freedom and deconditioning. I would add there that Jung had a 7th house on the DC. His chart was Uranus conjunct the Sun in his 7th house, which, you know, links into, for me also, it's that, you know, where he talks about the individuation, liberation, freedom and deconditioning. Deconditioning from Saturn's restrictions, beliefs, rules, patterns of society, family, expectations of people in our lives, you know, the codependency we've been having, the codependency towards governments, you know, making everything's all right for us, like being a nanny state. But, you know, it's time for us to step up individually, you know, and look after our current, you know, what's right in our face, and then we, you know, work together. That would be the plan with Uranus and Aquarius as well. The planet's moving into Aquarius in the coming months and years ahead. Uranus wants to shatter, revolutionize, liberate and help us break free from conditioning and patterns. So we're going to go now. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to read through the houses, and I've got brief statements on each house. And what I'd like to do is add a little bit in on the aspects of the trauma, so we can understand that it's not all doom and gloom. The planets aren't all trauma. They work in many different ways. And then we also look at the aspects in our chart. It's not just one thing, and we integrate the whole chart. We don't just look at one thing. It's, and the planets are always moving, like the moon is 28 days around the chart, and the moon's affecting as it goes, and the sun. So, we need to look at the bigger picture in our own astrology as well. And so Uranus, Aries, or first house would be, Uranus here is where you reinvent yourself. You are revolutionary in your image, and you're not afraid to be seen. And as it's currently retrograde until January, I added that Uranus retrograde will change the way you view yourself. It may cause you to experiment with your outward appearance, but will also challenge your dedication to your life's journey. Expect questions to arise around your individual freedom and staying true to yourself. So then, if I've got my documents here, I'm going to read from. And I would like to add, actually, this, if you go to the Jeff Wolf-Green Evolutionary School of Astrology webpage, which is a beautiful page with so much information on there. It's just packed with information. There's an article, and it's Trauma and the Outer Planets, and it's got the trauma and the outer, for Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and part of this information I've accessed from there. But I would like, maybe this could go below the video in the YouTube, just so that people can access it, because it's absolutely brilliant information for us to really understand the trauma in our world. So Uranus in the first house of Aries, the mental trauma can occur when, as individuals, are not able to accept their physical or psychological karmic limitations, and this can cause a block in achieving an inner sense of special destiny and not being able to do anything or everything that they feel they can do. And Jeff Wolf-Green says here that the first house, when it's in the first house, it's a superhuman complex that must be restrained in order to align with the ego, bringing a state of balance and equality into the individual. There's a natural power here of leadership and breaking new ground, and they must learn to integrate this capacity within the system so abilities can be actualized. And the memories here, the subconscious memories here, can be of premature or early life endings, premature lifetimes, where they've ended early, and irrational fears of losing control, and going too far from their immediate environment in which they feel safe. So this is a really brilliant thing to know, along with what the deeper aspect of what that means. And then Taurus, we've got Uranus in Taurus, which it is, and this is about our possessions, our security, our self-worth. It is here we find our comfort, both physically and mentally, our finances, financial security. Uranus in the second house gives you a unique perspective on money. You think about it differently than most and are adept to take risks in new ventures. Uranus retrograde, it's new ways of developing wealth, values and self-worth, to be looked at, questioning also meaning of security, questioning the meaning of security and what it means to feel secure. What does abundance mean to you, and what are you willing to change to achieve it? So with the trauma aspect here, then we've got the mental trauma is where we're forced to change our value systems and values that have been defined, that have defined our identity and overall reality for a long time. Everything that has been held dear and cherished gets can be lost, material loss, and also we have to realign ourselves, and we have to get a new set of values and modify and adjust our existing ones, which allows us then to relate in a totally new way. Subconsciously, we can have vague memories of physical or emotional destitution, which creates us desperately hanging on, because Taurus doesn't want to change. Taurus wants the things the same way. I've got a Taurus North Node. You want us to keep it the same way and keep it the same way. And also my Taurus is 6th house, so I've done that in work. I stayed in a business for 30 years that I didn't, particularly want to stay in. Uranus hits my 6th house, and bankruptcy happened for me, which was perfect ending, perfect timing. Even though it was really uncomfortable, Uranus gave me the shock I needed to evolve and begin to actually do the work that I love. So we can see a happy ending there, which wasn't happy when Uranus moved into my 6th house of Taurus. So that was, we're going to go on now to the slide 3. And we have Uranus in Gemini, or the 3rd house. Uranus in the 3rd house challenges the conventional methods of communication and conversation, new means of expression, and how we utilize new technologies. Uranus retrograde will break through communication blocks and offer unique options, ones that rely on a progressive and open mind. Expect questions to arise around how you exchange energy with the world. If you could create a new system to deliver your thoughts, what would it look like? And what actually is beautiful, this is going to be, you know, Uranus in Gemini will be 2025, so we can see this beautiful thing happening from where we are now with the Uranus in Taurus, and how it's going to go into Gemini, and we're going to have new expressions, new technologies. You know, we've got an exciting time ahead of us, although it may feel doom and gloom. You know, I just see the timing as just, you know, just perfect in so many ways. With the trauma of Uranus in Gemini, or the 3rd house, it would be the mental trauma that occurs of life, when life situations that directly confront the way in which we understand our ideas, opinions, and our mental constructions. The intensity of confrontations, experiences force us to question and restructure our mental constructions to get to a new way of thinking. The transition between the new and the old systems in this period can be the greatest traumas and psychological instability. Subconscious memories of a knowledge based on understandings that are not present or part of the current life reality as reflected in other people or society in general. Frustration of trying to communicate or relate knowledge, creating states of psychological confinement that are differentness and can widen the gap here. And, you know, also within themselves, in ourselves, and in contrast to others around us. The frustration can generate in our own mental trauma that is defined by a state of alienation from others in society. So that would be the trauma of Uranus in Gemini. And now we've got Uranus in Cancer in the 4th house. And here we have the 4th house rules our home, our family. It is here that we find our roots, our deepest sense of self. And in the 4th house lies our emotional body, which only we know. It also is the house of our intuition, and this energy comes from deep within. Here it's untraditional view of our home, experimentation, as well as, you know, emotional home challenge, and it's a challenge to our emotions. Uranus in the 4th, or in Cancer. Uranus retrograde will test the sense of home and family. It will ask you to look at your roots and decide if they need to be replanted in a new direction. And it will ask you to use your intuition to determine who your tribe is and where your home indeed can be found. So clearly the home is very much in our body, number one, always the case. And then we extend out beyond that. You know, we've got the home, which is our house, and then the home, which is our planet. So it's not just, to me, the home is not only, you know, the home that we live in, it extends. And then, you know, the space, you know, the home of beyond this realm as well, in my own understanding. Then we have Uranus, the trauma here, and the mental trauma that can be experienced is the lack of emotional understanding, a lack of nurturing, related to the biological parents. And there can be a lack is experienced as adults, and due to just the displaced emotions that occurred in childhood. Here it's an inner security that's unresolved in the inner child, and then we're projecting the emotional needs and demands onto others and trying to recover the emotional nurturing that we missed out on themselves, and that's affected, you know, in adverse ways. The circumstances can occur, environmental and circumstantial experiences that throw them back into themselves. And again, I think, you know, just a brief jumping ahead, you know, we're talking 20 years ahead, but if we look at, you know, that we've got the, you know, Taurus collectively, then it will go into Gemini, and then it will go into the sign of Cancer, you know, so these words here of that trauma, you know, where it will throw us back upon ourselves, you know, of how we're, you know, utilizing this planet and our home, I would say, at that time. And also Uranus here will on a regular basis remove or change or force us to learn the lesson, and this can create trauma for us. That subconsciously how this is working is memories from past lives and how that dynamic has played out, and it can intensify then the projected emotional demands, so we can start projecting that onto others. And also I would say that when we begin to do our proper work, the shadow work as Jung suggested, and that we find in evolutionary astrology, what will happen is that we will stop that projection going outside ourselves. When we work with the inner critic, we stop the shame and the blame of self, and we stop projecting that blame outside, and we begin to nurture ourselves. We do then stop projecting onto the world. We start maturing and taking care of those in need as well, because there are people at different stages of evolution, clearly. The fifth house, Uranus in 5. In the fifth house, it's about fun, creativity, and children, inner child. Uranus in the fifth house wants you to explore different methods of release. Each of us has a different way of enjoying the world we live in. Uranus in the fifth house wants you to explore as many methods as possible and use them to fuel creation. Often this placement creates musicians, artists or writers who explore new ways of creating and becoming visionaries of entertainment. Uranus retrograde is asking you here simply to go within and find your unique creativity. And I will say, when that was in my fifth house, that's when I found, with the astrology, and I started making YouTubes and I started making slideshows. I began to develop, and learn little bit by bit through others that I was coming in contact with. I think Linda was helping me with my slides originally a few years ago, and then I began to get more creative as, towards the end of my transit of the fifth house, Uranus for me. So it was a beautiful period for me, a bit shocking to me. I didn't want to work anymore. I wanted to just be creative all the time. And the mental trauma here is these individuals, focus on an experience of sense of psychological, there can be separation and isolation from the environment, and this separation and isolation can, then interpret their overall environment in general and others specifically as being unduly critical or persecutory towards them, and feelings of others conspiring against them. Oh, sorry, I'm going to the sixth house. I've got to jump back. I'm going to forgive myself on the Mercury retrograde there. Fifth house, mental trauma from indifference or non-acknowledgement with regard to society or others. These people have a need to be acknowledged as special, to be validated, to be seen as superhuman in compassion to others. The indifference in non-acknowledgement can occur through life. It is cyclical, and it's about achieving relatively great heights. This effect can also happen when Uranus transits the Sun also. So you can look, is Uranus maybe not in your fifth house, but is it transiting your Sun, as an example? This generates the evolutionary need to totally change, restructure or redefine one's sense of purpose, and how the individual has understood the meaning of his or her life and purpose. And that would have been interesting because the Sun, ruling my fifth, it was the Sun rules the fifth house, so I was definitely going through that. I was redefining my purpose in life at that time. There can be a disassociation and the consequent need to review the sense of purpose, and that can be traumatic, and it was a little bit, because I was thinking, oh my God, I don't want to, I was in the business where I was making money, and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. It was a shock to my system. I lost interest, and that was a shock for me. And the core of the individual's beingness seems to have changed with this fifth house or Leo Uranus. An explosion of putting all the pieces back together can happen. So everything exploded for me, and then I had to put all the pieces back together. How am I going to do this? So past life memories can be where that one has achieved great fame, and also, feeling like you've been the royal family, particularly with natal placements more so, I would say that. And now we're going to go to Uranus and Virgo in the sixth house. And the sixth house rules service, our gift to the world. It is here we find our sense of purpose and the drive to put that purpose to good use. The ways we view service, our very definition of service, and experimenting with our offerings. And Uranus retrograde will ask us to look within to find our gift, that we can then use it to create positive change in the world. Oftentimes something may seem like a burden, but is the exact perspective someone else needs. And definitely I've got this transit going on, and that's what's been going on for me. Uranus in the 6th house, the trauma side of this is mental trauma occurs when the individuals focus on an experience of sense of psychological separation and isolation from their immediate environment. Within this isolation, they can interpretate their all environment in general and others specifically, and others can be critical and persecutory toward them. Feelings of others conspiring against them, feelings of trauma of the type of work they find themselves in, because they feel that they've got this different approach to work. The ability and the capacity can remain unactualized. So we've really got to watch for this one. You can think, oh, I'm not good enough, and start the inner critic work, or not doing the inner critic work, and you can end up thinking that you're not good enough with the Virgo. I'm not good enough, the Virgo Pisces aspect, the polarity, and have that martyr type behavior going on. I don't particularly like the word behavior, but that sort of psychological, that I'm not good enough, and we need to get rid of that. It's really important that we begin to shake this off through doing our inner work and the inner child work. Subconscious memories of not being good enough, is the big thing here, and we can create trauma by not actualizing and going from one crisis to the other. So it's learning with that Virgo, to stop creating that crisis, and that's part of maturing as well. And then we have the 7th house. I'd like to stop there for a minute and just ask if everybody's okay with this, and any questions halfway through, or should we wait till the end for questions? If nobody says, then I'll just keep going. Okay, I'm going to continue. So here we've got Uranus, Libra, and the 7th house. And the 7th house rules our partnerships, including our romantic relationships. It's here we learn how to balance relationships energy equally and fairly for all. Uranus in the 7th house will challenge the conventional definition of relationships. It opens up the way for a progressive view of what a true partnership is, and to demonstrate it to the world. And Uranus retrograde here is asking us to evaluate your relationships and adjust them as necessary. It will also ask if you feel free in your partnerships, and will break away any that don't fit your vision of what this looks like. How can you feel free and committed at the same time is the big question here. So as the trauma aspect here in the 7th house is the mental trauma. It can be unexpected disruptions in relationships. It can be fracturing, outright termination within our relationships and partnerships, intimate ones as well. And this can occur either by, people projecting on to us if we've got this going on, or we projecting on to others. And it's also the projection creates a high degree of irrationality in us, and we can see that anyway, that our projection is generally quite irrational as human beings. It's generally from childhood, and it's very difficult for us to own it and grasp it, and it's part of our consciousness to do so, and part of our evolution to really go to that bit of maturity. And the planets that are currently, the current collective chart is asking us to do that currently, with all of the planets in Capricorn. In addition, these individuals, it's about fair play and justice, so there can be fair play here and there can be justice, and they don't want to be violated, and this can cause trauma, and these individuals need to reevaluate. And many people here have a subconscious memories of sudden loss, in relationships, and that can be the subconscious understanding, feelings, and that at our core, and this can create trauma. Those feelings can create trauma. The past life memories and early imprints can create trauma in our current partnerships, that we're playing out in our projection or being projected onto. So then we have the Uranus in Scorpio of the 8th, and the 8th house is the house of merging, growth, birth, death, taxes, transformation, unconscious shadow. Our Uranus in the 8th house is discovery, self-inquiry, expansion, and our perception. And Uranus retrograde wants you to break blocks and stagnation that prevent our growth. Just as the taboo or condition control patterns, it's about transformation. So the trauma here, in the mental trauma, is when, you know, it's betrayals of trust, when betrayals of trust occur. And it's also when we end up feeling that our trust is being violated, or that we could violate somebody else's trust, you know, and then we're in trouble. And also the violation can cause experience of abandonment and intensity in loss, and can lead to, you know, psychological cataclysm, and also where others turn upon us, or, you know, we're turning upon others. And it's also where we have, you know, we can have sadism and, you know, sadism, sadistic abuse, you know, of others. And the dynamic then can lead to just further violation. So we have to watch out for this. But clearly, the more conscious we are, that, you know, we're aware and we understand we have free will. We don't particularly have free will in how other people treat us, but we do have free will in how we respond to situations. There can be lost link with partnerships and, you know, resources. And also there can be, it's very intense. Uranus, you know, in the 8th house, it's a lead on from the 7th, because it's relationships still, to a large degree. And also it can be where our perception may be very accurate and we'll be able to see, because, you know, the investigative side of, you know, Scorpio, where we can deeply investigate and really know things, very highly intuitive, and seeing things for what they are, and people hiding things from us below the surface, or either that we are doing that, depending on what's going on. And this can lead to, you know, traumatic conditions. And here there can be subconscious memories of, you know, that intensify from past lives, of being where we've been, you know, abandoned. And also there's sexual energy occurring here. You know, there's the sexual side of the Scorpio and what lays beneath the surface. And we can also want to watch out for misuse of our sexual desire, and because, you know, misuse of sexual energy is karmic. You know, to me, the sexual energy and the sexual fluids, and that we go, you know, that we exchange with people, you know, it's soul related. You know, sex is abused so regularly in society and so misunderstood, you know, what it's meant to be used for. And I'm not being a Puritan in that. We do what we do, we evolve, we grow up through life, we do what we do. But I think as we become adults, we understand, you know, that it's there's a lot of depth in it. You know, it's sacred. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a sacred act. And also with, you know, the misuse of it, it's, you know, it's highly offensive, you know, to me at this point in my life, seeing what goes on in society with the misuse and trafficking in children and stuff like that. So again, going on, we don't want to misuse that in our own lives for our own karmic benefit. And Uranus then in the 9th house, which is my natal placement. So you can look at this from various ways when you listen to this playback also. Uranus Sagittarius, the 9th house. The 9th house is the house of philosophy, often thought as the house of travel, truth and knowledge. It's overseas, it's the past, you know, Sagittarius, it's the past, it's the nomad, it's exploration of the unknown. And Uranus loves an adventure and will inspire many with this placement. Uranus retrograde, it's expecting this transit to bring you to different perspectives, different understandings, and, you know, what's truths and what's blocking our growth. And the trauma here, the mental trauma, it's the nature of beliefs, and, you know, are these beliefs, you know, are odds with the consensus beliefs. And the trauma here can also isolate us, you know, that nomadic sort of isolation, Sagittarius, you know, a loner. And we can feel that we're being ridiculed or persecuted, or, you know, where attacks go on because you don't believe what I believe, and, you know, the way that us human beings play out. This is also about our structures. It's, you know, spirituality, it's religious beliefs as well, and it's education. And it's also that, you know, where people are not supporting each other's beliefs. Trauma can occur when we're made to question, or people question our own beliefs. You know, we may intuitively know something to be absolutely right, natural law, we absolutely know what's right, and then the consensus reality may be against that, and we can feel very hard done by when these things happen. It can create absolute traumas to, you know, for us, belief systems. You know, it creates wars, clearly, and on religion and spiritual beliefs. This type of trauma, you know, can be with the past lives, and it can be to do with, you know, the past life religious beliefs, and also to do with the Bible, and, you know, seeing something really horrible happen and sort of questioning the idea, you know, well, how can this happen to people? You know, where is God? You know, does God exist? You know, it can leave us in a void as well. I experience this sometimes in myself, having a natural ninth house, Uranus conjunct my Pluto. Sometimes I feel, you know, a bit gobsmacked by the world. I don't know if that's the right word, but I feel, you know, a bit stunned or shocked by the world. I think, how can people not understand what's so obvious? And, you know, it sends me off into my own world and withdrawing from the world at times. Then we've got Uranus when it's in Capricorn or in the 10th house. The 10th house governs our career, our public image, our reputation, how we are seen by others in the world. Uranus in the 10th house is our work life. It's the perception of how it has to be done. This placement lends to the belief that the careers are something we design. We design our careers. Some people don't get that choice, clearly, but, you know, we're given that ability to design our lives. Uranus retrograde will ask us to look at our current work life and decide if a change is needed. If it's in your 10th house, this is what it's asking of you. You know, do you need a change? And with Uranus retrograde in play, it could include a shift to more, you know, digital and computers, and ability to work from anywhere, invention, new business, how you create a career. And that works for me actually on my, you know, it's on my cusp, it's on the 9th house cusp for me, and that's what I've now been led into in my later, you know, time in my own trajectory of my own as I've gone through life. You know, I'm born in 1966, and at this point I'm like, right, I understand what I'm here for now, and thank God for technology as well. The trauma here with Capricorn, in Capricorn, the mental trauma is to do with the family of origin, and it's where there's been dysfunction in some way, where the parents have been absent, emotionally unavailable, or, you know, sudden loss of partners. And the trauma can be where we've not been validated or acknowledged, and particularly by parental care. Adults here, the dynamics can occur through non-acceptance by mainstream, for instance, and we can also have, you know, we've severely misjudged our career or field of choice by sudden loss of, you know, position can also happen as well, and we feel psychologically misplaced and I relate a little bit to that actually with that 9th house cusp, that I feel a bit cheated that I was in, you know, a service-based industry for 30 years from age 21 to 51. I feel cheated that I was in something like that. I would have preferred to have been creative all my life, to be honest with you, and working on computers, but evolution, and here I am. So, and we go as we go, you know, we can't unring a bell. So here we may have issues with, you know, feeling forms of depression, you know, with the mental trauma of Uranus in the 10th, and states are feeling blocked and thwarted by the environment, and this can generate feelings of it's pointless, you know, the attitude of it's pointless, you know, what's the point in even trying to reach my goal, and, you know, and not bothering. And we've got to try and snap out of that. If we've got depression, you know, there's ways of snapping out of these things. I don't mean that rudely. If people suffer from depression, it's a very tough thing to go through, and, you know, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not saying, you know, I'm not labeling all depression the same. But, you know, we need to really get help where we need help, and step up and ask for help where we need help, and, you know, and also look at, you know, what is the cause of it, because there is help out there. There's abundance of help. I've learnt that myself through being depressed in my past, that there's a lot of people that will step in, and sometimes we've just got to ask. And if we're feeling depression, particularly as this, we're going through what we're going through right now with the planets in Capricorn, not Uranus in Capricorn, but the others, we want to watch out for that. Here we can have subconscious memories that reflect our lifetimes of being defeated. So we want to, you know, really step into ourselves, step into our big, big girl shoes or big guy shoes, and make something of ourselves. We can shake certain things off. I do know that to be true as well. So we don't want to get pessimistic and sarcastic about life. We can lose that if we work on it. But that's the inner child work, definitely. We've got Uranus Aquarius, 11th house, it's home. The 11th house is the house of friends, hopes, dreams and humanity, the collective, the home of Uranus, the future of our world, our groups, ideas, our vision, how it can be reached, the visionaries who see the future before others. Uranus retrograde here is asking us to break our penny conventional views and that we have about humanity, and search deep within to create new ones. Inspiration, sharing with others. What change can we bring to humanity? What individually change can we bring in through Uranus in Taurus? We can take that aspect in as well. And the mental trauma here would be that it's where we feel like we've been living a lie. We've not been true to ourselves. And I think that collectively, many of us are seeing that now. We can see this with Uranus. We're going to have Saturn, and we're going to have Jupiter move in the 21st of December into the sign of Aquarius, and then we've got Pluto following 2023, 2024. This is, a really quite an exciting time. It's quite electrical, an electrifying time in many ways. For better or for worse, we've got to decide, each of us individually and collectively. Here, it's where the individual can feel that we're really different, and that we don't fit into the environment, and that we don't want to. We think that we need to adopt, following along, but we don't want to do that, and that we feel like we have to compensate, which continues keeping us in that lie. And this is where we want to knock that on the head now. A British term. We want to really deal with this in our inner selves. And the psychological trauma is the realization that we do need to radically alter, but we rebel against that as well. So there can be fear in doing that, and if we live in that fear of not resisting the changes, then we're just going to implode. It's like we just get thrown back on ourselves, and then it affects our health and our body, and we don't want to. We've got free will. Well, let's come back to that. Through our consciousness, knowledge, free will, choices. That's the ultimate. We can have friendships go astray here, and things that turn sort of disruptive, and we can have subconscious memories where we have felt that we've been persecuted for being different, and we can then compensate by trying to appear to be normal. And where individual, I won't say it's the age of individuation, but it is. It's this is what Jung was talking about with the shadow. His work really lines up with 2020 just incredibly. And now we're going to the last one, which is Uranus and Pisces, or the 12th house. And Uranus here is the house of spirituality. It's our subconscious. It's our dreams beyond this realm, beyond the five senses. And it's our desire to seek something more. Dreams, expansion, consciousness of the soul and the soul. Uranus retrograde here is asking us to question individual choices, to look at where we are blocking our own spiritual growth. Uranus makes us aware of and makes us unique, what makes us unique. But sometimes those very things prevent us from growing past them. And this retrograde will challenge you to let go of your eccentricities and surrender to something beyond you and beyond the scenes, whatever that is, to you individually. So that's what's going on if it's in your 12th house, because it's not going to be in Pisces for a long, long time. So Uranus and the mental trauma here can occur when the psyche, the personality begins to fracture. There can be where it's dissolving, and due to the stress that we're experiencing, either through external or being directed at us. And there can be inner stress, from the unconsciousness, from the imprints, and we can have impulses that where we want to escape you know, and run away. And that can be, you know, that can be through, you know, it can be through alcohol, it can be through drugs, it can be through disassociation, which is again trauma-based disassociation. And we can also, so we want to avoid, you know, running away from things here. Jeff Wolf Green said, liked out what he said here. He said, anomatically and physiologically, this impulse is rooted in the pineal gland within the brain. So, you know, it's not, whilst we have free will, you know, there's part of us where, you know, we don't have free will. You know, we cannot, you know, say, you know, I'm going to be born on this day and I'm going to leave on this day. I mean, maybe we have that you know, being in the human body, who knows, but we definitely, you know, there are things that just happen in life as well. So we don't want to bypass our own reality and feelings by saying, well, everybody's got free will, and just be hard on people, thinking that, you know, we've got free will 100% of the time, because that's not the absolute truth either. But we have free will to a degree, and it works in tandem with, you know, the bigger picture and what's the unknown. And then we have Jeff Wolf Green, I did add on to go here, that he says that the pineal gland, secretes a protein called melatonin, which is connected to our dreams, sleep, and our need for transcendence, to embrace a more holistic, inclusive, ultimate or spiritual reality. So if we don't understand this, you know, and we're going towards our impulses and we don't embrace the spiritual, you know, it can make us go a bit crazy. So we want to make sure that we are doing our spiritual thing here and working with the subconscious, and maybe, you know, getting therapy or doing what needs to be done at this time if you feel like you're sort of, you know, we're losing the plot a bit with the 12th house planets. I know I felt like that with the Saturn moving through my 12th house on the AC. I had a complete breakdown at that time. I also had my Chiron return happening at the same time, so it was a very crazy time for me, and I went and got help for my own psychology, trauma psychoanalysis I had for 2 years, which was perfect for me. It ended in July 2020, so a bit of story on my own life. So here it can, you know, we want to look for the psychosis, phobias, neurosis, you know, any disorder and any splitting in ourselves that needs to be healed, and look at any addictions and trying to escape. And the last time it was in Pisces, was Uranus in Pisces, was the 1920s, and that was when there was a lot of drug use and alcoholism, and, you know, what was going on during that period. People were, you know, overdoing it with such things, with alcohol, and there can be subconscious memories of being imprisoned or incarcerated against our will. Doesn't mean literal, you know, that can just be psychological as well, and being, you know, persecuted in the 20s. So, and also hiding from people. So I'm done there with my presentation for today. I hope this has been useful, and I would like to see if anybody's got any questions. I think Peggy or Linda, or I don't know if anybody else is here. Jenny, anybody can tell me what house Uranus is transiting for them, and if they've got any hard aspects. I'd really like to know if anybody can tell me. I think Jenny, or I've got a few people here. Sorry, what's there? Oh, one more thing actually before I go. I would say, let me just flip back to this slide. I love this button. I always do this on my videos. I add this, the Jeff Wolf Green Pluto 1, page 346. Jeff Wolf Green says, the need to merge with the source, the universal, requires that the individual leap into the abyss with faith, so that all barriers preventing this conscious union can be dissolved. Yet this evolutionary need is commonly met with resistance and fear. Just as the wave can resist returning to the sea for a time, so too does the egocentric identification within the individual resist surrendering to the cosmic ocean or being from which he or she originated. Whoops, I'm slipping slides there. So that's it, and that's my email if anybody wants to contact me. And I've got chat. Sorry, I didn't see my chat. Okay, brilliant. I didn't see that. Okay, So Jenny says, thank you. I have Uranus in the 12th house right in a row, and rising and moon. So let's see, Linda, Scorpio 24. Jenny says Scorpio 24 and degrees, and Uranus 25. So is your 12th house, Jenny, is your 12th house Scorpio? If you can answer that for me, I guess. Oh, actually, rising. I'm just checking that Scorpio 24, Uranus 25, and Scorpio. Yes, oh, brilliant. Yes, so I am also. So I am also rising at 27 degrees, but my that's your natal. I could see. So it's in Taurus. And what house is it transiting at this time, Jenny? For you, is it your 6th house also? Depending on the degree, it must be at the beginning of your 6th house by the sounds of it, but I could visually have that wrong. You don't know? Okay, well, if you're definitely Scorpio rising, I would say that it's in my 6th house. It would depend on the size and degrees of your houses as well. So it would be worth looking at and really, seeing where you're at, because it's either going to be in your 5th or it's going to be in your 6th. And by the sounds of it, because it's transiting through Taurus at the moment, and it's currently in the I think it's about 6 to 8 degrees at the moment. I should remember off the top of my head, because I'm doing this on this video, but I can't recall, because I'd have to go back on my slides, and I won't do that right now. But that's it for today, unless anybody else has got any anything to mention to me. Anyone else?
I can just mention that I have Uranus on my midheaven.
Oh wow, you do. So what's that? Is it up there on its own, or has it got anything else up there?
Technically, I mean, it's got Chiron at 18 degrees, but that's pretty far off
Okay, where's it transiting right now?
my midheaven. So right now
It's on your midheaven.
is at 4 degrees Taurus.
On your midheaven.
Yeah, but it's
Oh,
been going
brilliant.
back and forth. So 5.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Have you considered looking at technology, and what's your natal placement?
oh, it's in the 4th house, Scorpio. So
Okay, so you're all right. So you're going through the family stuff right now, but have you also, or you've the family with the 4th house? Sorry, you've had that as a family natal. Get me right.
yeah.
And then with the 10th house, have you been looking at working with technology? Where are you at in your mind with regard to, or do you do work that's related to that, or are you revolutionizing that area of your life right now with
Well,
work?
definitely through Zoom. Yeah, and I'm looking at, doing a business over the computer. But I
Absolutely.
also do long-term, like organic agriculture, and there's kind of a revolution happening within the agriculture movement.
Absolutely, that's work related, yes. And then there's the computer aspect of that as well. So,
Yeah, but since it's been retrograde, it definitely feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And so in this
yeah,
moment, in the retrograde, it's kind of amorphous. But finally in January,
yeah,
it'll be the final pass, and I'll finally be moving towards something. I hope.
yeah. And I feel that too. And I've got, Mars is moving through my 5th house, so I'm getting on with my creativity, the retrograde, which has been very useful to me at this time. So, when we look at all of these planets, we can understand what we're feeling. And Simon Forster pointed this out to me, because he partly coaches me on my own astrology, and as I've learned so much through Simon Forster. I owe so much to him, and Evolutionary Astrology, Jeff Wolfgreen, and Linda as well. My education on what I've learnt as I've, and how it's developed my life into being, becoming more stable and becoming healed through my own trauma as a child. It's just incredible what astrology can do for us, and hopefully in the years ahead, people understand what, as we move into this age of Aquarius, not age, but so much that's all questionable, the age of Aquarius, but the planets of Pluto moving into Aquarius, that people become more enlightened of this tool that, to me, when I look at it at its baseline, would have been the first form of psychology on Earth. That's what human beings would have been doing, they would have been looking to the stars and then trying to figure out, what am I doing on this planet, and what am I on, and what is that up there. So, it's quite a beautiful journey, and hopefully we all look after ourselves through this period, and get the help that we need as we go through our psychological changes, and help each other and be there for each other. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Penelope. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you for more. Looking forward to seeing you again in 2021.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry if I went on. Sorry if I continued there a bit.
Thank you.
Gemini. I'm a Gemini. Okay, that's really great. Thank you to everybody for watching as well.